What's up, ladies and gents? This is KSigKid coming at you with another Destiny video. Today we've got an absolutely monster Destiny video all about the Rise of Iron and something awesome that is going to be happening with your Guardian coming September 20th. So today at work I knew that I wanted to put out a Destiny video. I was thinking that I wanted to talk about the Rise of Iron, and I just so happened to luck into the fact that Game Informer did a story, and they're basically going to have Destiny Rise of Iron as their cover story for their September issue. And they released some information that is absolutely amazing. So I went on to my digital subscription and I was able to grab some screenshots and some awesome and amazing information that I definitely want to share with you. Trust me, you are going to be extremely pumped and extremely hyped about this. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. What we're talking about is artifacts. And you're like, kid, whoa, you lost me already. Artifacts are just boring. There's no way I'm going to get excited about artifacts at all. And you're right. Artifacts in the Taken King, in my personal opinion, the only reason artifacts are in there is to make your individual light levels divisible by 10. That's the only reason I believe they're in the game at all in their current state right now. But in Rise of Iron, all of that's changing. All of that is changing. Artifacts are now going to have an ability. And you're like, well, they've already got some perks. Well, no. This is game-breaking, game-changing abilities that these artifacts are going to have. And these artifacts, we're going to showcase 8 of them. They're going to have abilities that you can use on any of your character classes in any of the subclasses within the character. So whatever you see an ability, and we talk about an ability, you're going to be able to use that on your Titan, your Hunter, and your Warlock, and that's absolutely amazing. There's definitely no class favoritism here with this. And some of these are absolutely amazing. You're going to want to be playing with this stuff right now. And some of them, well, we're just going to have to wait and see how they're actually implemented in the game, just to see how useful or not useful they actually are. So what's going to happen is on Felwinter's Peak, we're going to have this archivist, Tyra Karn. And what she's going to do is she's going to have these weekly bounties for you to do. Whenever you finish up those bounties, you get a token, an Iron Lord's Legacy token. You're going to take that token to one of the statues of the Iron Lords around Felwinter's Peak, and you're going to offer that token up to get the specific artifact for that lord. Now, what do you do as far as the bounties? We don't know yet. It sounds like they're all going to center around the Plaguelands and doing stuff within the Plaguelands, maybe killing different enemies, which should be pretty easy. I don't feel like these things are going to be all that difficult. They might be slaying a number of enemies. They might be slaying major enemies that are out in the field. They might be doing the public events. Whatever it is, you'll need to complete those for those weekly bounties, and there are 8 different ones. So if you're only able to do this once per account, just like the Sterling Treasure, for instance, the Sterling Treasure, you get 3 of them per account each week. If you're only able to do this once per account each week, in 8 weeks you should be able to have all of these different ones, and then I'm guessing you can swap them between characters just like you'd be able to swap items, just amongst your characters as it is. Okay, I think we just need to get into it. We just need to get into this stuff. Let's start off with this screenshot, and you can see what we've got is a nice circle of all of these different emblems for the artifacts. We're starting off with the memory of Radagast, and they're all the memories of these Iron Lords. What this one does is it revolves around swords. So if you block with a sword with the memory of Radagast equipped, you can reflect back enemy projectiles. And it says you can reflect back Ogre Blasts or even rockets in the Crucible. Rockets in the Crucible. Holy crap, this sounds like a lot of fun. If you love swords in Destiny, this sounds like this would be an absolutely perfect artifact for you to use. I mean, you're basically going to be a Jedi, blocking back projectiles back at the enemy. Hopefully there's a little bit of smart targeting where whenever you are blocking, the blasts are actually going back to the enemy and not just in some random geometric pattern based on their projectile velocity and impact ratio. We definitely don't want that, not like the Sleeper Simulant. If it's like the Sleeper Simulant, it's really not going to do all that much in my personal opinion. It's just going to be reflecting bullets and not really getting any kills with it, and that sounds wasted. If there is some type of smart targeting for the projectiles to go back towards the enemy, then I think that's going to be absolutely amazing, and I am all for that. Moving on to our next one, we've got the memory of Paran, and what you do with this is whenever you've got this one equipped, if one of your enemies has a super, they're going to be highlighted in yellow. If the enemy is low on health, they're going to be highlighted in red. So I can see this in Crucible as a way to just kind of mark your targets. If that glow and that hue is really significant, I don't think they're going to let you wallbang with this. I don't think they'll let you see through walls. That would be just a little bit OP. I mean, that would be ridiculously OP. But even if you saw just a little glimpse of their head and it was highlighted yellow or highlighted red, that could be a huge advantage for you in the Crucible. And I think that could be something that you see solo players maybe running around with in Crucible or the Iron Banner. Next up, we have the Memory of Jolder. And what happens with this one is you don't get sprint locked. You don't get sprint locked when you have this on. There's no cooldown between your sprint whenever you're using it and whenever you're letting go of it and then trying to run again. Now, I know a lot of Guardians are going to be like, you know what, that one is stupid. Why isn't that just a thing in the game? Well, I guess it's just never going to be a thing in the game. So if sprint locking is something that you absolutely despise, I would highly suggest putting on that artifact and just avoid it altogether. Next up, we have the Memory of Scylla, and this one's a little bit weird for me. What this one does is it's supposed to dramatically reduce the effect of damage over time to your Guardian. So they're talking about the Thorn making a comeback, but if the Thorn makes a comeback, it's already absolutely neutered as far as burn goes. So are they going to rebuff it? That just makes sense to me. Rebuff the Thorn, rebuff Firebolt, because what else is a damage over time effect? And then the people that are absolutely hating on the burnt can put on this artifact and get the damage lower down to probably where it is right about now. I would say that this thing is not going to see a ton of use, especially with as little burn as we actually see in Destiny right now. Next up, we've got a big one. Memory of Felwinter. For starters, you have no super when you put this on, but you gain an extra melee and an extra grenade, and your stats get increased, and whenever you pick up orbs, they end up recharging your grenade in melee. Holy crap, that's a lot of stuff. For starters, I'd like to know how much my stats are going to increase by having this on, because that can be something significant. Also, they say an extra melee and grenade, and they say that these things are separate from any other gear and perks that you have on. So here's what I'm wondering. If you've already got on an exotic piece that gives you 2 grenades, or you're using the perk that gives you 2 grenades, or you've got 2 melee charges, will you get an extra one? Will you have 3 grenades? Will you have 3 melee charges? That's something we need to wait and find out, but I think you're already thinking, wow, I might want to give up my super for 3 grenades or 3 melee charges on some characters. Something to think about, something definitely to think about. The Memory of Galeon is a little bit simpler. What you end up doing is you have an enhanced radar all the time, which is pretty cool. I think you're pretty familiar with that if you use the Night Stalker. But you also have Third Eye on all of your primary weapons. In some people, this is an absolute must-have perk in the Crucible. Some people swear by Third Eye, and if you do that, you can have that on all of your primary weapons. All you've got to do is put this artifact on, so I think this one could be pretty useful for some Guardians. We also have the Memory of Scory. In this one, think of it like you're a bard. Basically, if you have this one on and your teammates are around you, their super is going to charge up faster. So it's kind of like an inverse electrostatic mind, where whenever you're on a Stormcaller and you're around teammates, your super is going to charge up fast. So I can kind of see people who are doing trials carries asking the person that's getting carried to put on the Memory of Scory and then be close to them and end up getting their super charged up extremely fast. This thing could be really deadly. What about chaining 3 Memory of Scories amongst 3 different Trials members all at once? That team is going to have their super a lot, and then double that up with having Electrostatic Mind as well. We might see Stormcallers just absolutely steamroll over the Trials of Osiris in the opening days of the Rise of Iron. Finally, the Memory of Teemer is definitely a PvE-centered perk. It basically gives you the ability to control enemies. It says whenever you do a melee attack on low-powered enemies, you have a chance of turning them to your side for 30 seconds and they're going to attack their own allies. So you'll be able to get those acolytes fighting for you. Maybe those thralls running back and fighting other thralls. This thing definitely could be useful, but I'd want to know just how much of a chance you actually have of activating that. That could be really interesting to know, and that could definitely make this a make or break it type of perk. I imagine back in the Vault of Glass, especially whenever you were doing confluxes, or even Crota's End, pretty much the entire thing, something like this would have been absolutely amazing. Not quite as useful in the King's Fall, but definitely in our first 2 raids, it would have been a really useful thing just to have on your team, because why not? And finally, they talked about what's going on with Lord Saladin, and what's going on with Aphrodite, because these are 2 other Iron Lords, but they're potentially alive. We know Lord Saladin is alive. Aphrodite might be alive as well. What about them? Are they going to get their own artifacts as well? Might they be quote-unquote super artifacts or something like that? I don't know, but Destiny and Bungie definitely has some options there. I'm pretty excited about these new artifacts. I am definitely excited. Anything that's going to change our gameplay experience and give us more power is A-okay in my book. I'm all for that, absolutely. Let me know what you think about these new artifacts and the Rise of Iron in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, smack that like button and subscribe to the channel. Check out these awesome videos. Good luck with your raids, your drops, your Rise of Iron, and I'll see you around in Destiny. Getting that memory on.